Do you need to do 5K in less than 7 days? In this video, I'm going to show you the quickest and easiest way to do it. And I will break it down into 11 clear steps. And I will even give you free templates to make it simple. It doesn't matter if you are a beginner or already have some experience, this method will help you add thousands to your bank account. And once you do it once, you can do it again and again. I know that this might sound too good to be true, but it's not. And the strategy worked for me and it worked for hundreds of others I've helped. So just a bit background about myself. A few years back, I was in a rough spot. My bank account was at minus $500. I needed to find a way out and fast. And what I would share with you today is exactly what I did to turn things around. This is the same method that helped me grow my business, Teliosa.com, to make it $500K per month. And over the past 4 years, I've done more than $10 million in sales. So I use it to help others with 10K, 50K, and even sometimes 500K a month. And no, you don't need to be popular, have followers, or spend money on ads. It works from scratch, and it's not SMMA, it's not dropshipping, it's not trading, it's not OF, it's something you have never heard about. And most people think making money is hard, but it's really not. You just need your brain and a bit of effort. The first part is about mindset. So I won't spend too much on this because I think that I will do another video. And by the way, just let me know in the comment if you want another video on that. But for me, mindset is a huge part of my success. And so if you really want to do 5K in 7 days, you can't spend a lot of time on the mindset, but I will definitely spend at least 1 day of it. Because I know that for a lot of people, 5K sounds like a big amount, and sometimes it's like 2 months of salary. But to be able to make 5K in a week, you have to believe that it's possible. In fact, if you don't believe that it's achievable, then it won't be. You have to tell yourself that it's easy. And again, the goal isn't whatever it's actually easy or not. Of course, making 7 days from scratch, it's hard. But the goal is that you believe it is. So that's step 1, building your mindset that makes you unstoppable. Step 2. The step 2 is sell. But don't just sell anything. This is what I call sell before building. Because to make money, you need to sell something. And here is the thing. In 7 days, we don't have the time to build a product because we only have 7 days. So in these 7 days, we are going to collect 5K by selling something that doesn't exist yet. And I know that for a lot of people, it sounds counterintuitive and sometimes even risky. And it feels like we are getting ahead of ourselves. But here is why it's essential. If you don't sell first, you run the risk of spending time and energy creating something that nobody wants. And trust me, this is true for everyone, whether you are like a complete beginner or an experienced entrepreneur. I've met countless people that have done that mistake. They spend like a year on their products, and then once you have to sell it, nobody is interested. And we can take the example of Bill Gates, because when he first pitches one of the product of Microsoft, it was one of the biggest products. He hadn't built it yet. There is a well-known story where he met with IBM, who were interested in his software, and he sold it to them before he or his team has created anything. They had to pull all-nighters for weeks, maybe months to deliver it, but guess what? It worked. Gates sold an idea and then made it happen. And he is not alone because it's exactly the same story with Richard Branson. He did it with Virgin Airlines, announcing and selling flights before the planes were ready. And I've done it myself. I've done it too with my company and with my mastermind. If I remember correctly, I sold like 10 spots before I had created anything. Why? Because it's the best way to prove that there is demand for what you are offering. And this is your proof of concept. If you can sell something 3 times, you can sell it 1,000 times. And you may wonder, why is it easier to sell something that doesn't exist? When you are talking to potential customers, they will tell you exactly what they want. You can say yes to their question about feature or service and adapt your offer based on your real feedback. And this way you are not just building a product, you are building a solution that people have already said they need. And so I sold my mastermind before it existed. I think that I bring over something like 100K before I had even started birding in. And so, yes, it puts pressure on me, but pressure is good. Pressure creates diamonds. And if for some reason you can't find a way to deliver, you can always refund the money and people will respect your honesty. What you need to avoid at all costs is spending months creating something that nobody wants. And I know, yes, it's uncomfortable to sell something that doesn't exist yet, but the most important thing is the result your customer will get, not how perfect your product looks. And I can take another example, like major artists like Taylor Swift. They sell concert tickets before they plan the shows. So sell first, create later, and that's all you go from an idea to an income. So step 3 is the research. So this is where really like the magic happens. So we have talked about why it's crucial to say something before you created it. Now let's move on to the most important step, research. If there is one part you need to get right, it's this. The question to ask is, what are we going to sell? So I can take the example of the Y Combinator, one of the top startup incubator in Silicon Valley, home to giants like Airbnb and Stripe. And the Y Combinator has a simple but powerful piece of advice: make something people want. This is really crucial because if you solve a real problem that people care about, everything else becomes easier. And since we only have 7 days, we need to keep this process simple and focused. So start by thinking of a problem you know firsthand. Why? Because the easiest problem to solve are the ones you have experienced yourself. If you have faced a challenge and found a solution, there is a good chance other people have had the same problem. And that means there is potential demand. Maybe dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of people are waiting for that solution. And here is how I approach it. I ask myself, what problems have I solved? For example, I once helped my mom grow a therapy practice. And if she had that problem, surely others in her field did too. And because I knew this problem well, I understood this persona I was selling to. In this case, the persona was living with me. And so I was understanding completely the struggles and need of a therapist. And I can give you another example. Before helping my mom, I was a video maker, I was a photographer, and sometimes I was struggling to find new clients. And so I found a really good way to attract new clients thanks to Facebook ads and thanks to email and some stuff like this. And so I realized that it was a common challenge for many photographers in this industry. So I decided to explore it as a niche and offered solution to help wedding photographers attract more clients and secure more booking. And so I ended up earning several thousand euros by focusing on that niche. And remember, you are not married to your niche, you can pivot later. And so it's exactly what I did. When I found a better niche, I switched to the therapist niche. And so when you are choosing your niche, keep in mind that most niche falls into 3 main categories. So, okay, this is the first one. The second one is wealth. Yeah, my writing is terrible, but you get the idea. And the third one is relationship. And if you dig deep, nearly any problem you encounter can be tied to one of these areas. Understanding this can really help you narrow down your research and find a problem worth solving that people will pay for. So yeah, health, wealth, relationship stuff. And the interesting part is that within this broad niche, there are countless sub-niches. So let's take the health niche, for example. I have multiple friends that are helping people lose weight. So the losing weight industry is a huge one. Then in health, we have, for example, the muscle gain. This is a huge one. So those two are sub-niches, okay? And you have sub-niches. So for example, in the weight loss niche, so it's a sub-niche of the health. We have, for example, I know that in my mastermind there are people that help, for example, women who are over 40 lose weight. So it's a really good niche. And what's really important to understand about niches is that the more competitive the market is, the deeper you need to go into sub-niches to stand out. A common misunderstanding is that people think a niche has to be tiny. That's not true. A niche is simply a segment or sub-segment of a larger market. How deep do you need to go depends on the level of competition you are facing and also the market you are in. So now in the wealth category, think about how people make money. It could be through real estate, for example, could be also thanks to trading, the usual one, dropshipping, SMMA, all those kind of stuff. The make money niche has been here for a long time and it will be here forever. Relationship, it's exactly the same. It's a massive niche with branches like self-relationship. We also saw relationship with others, intimate relationships, and more. And one that is really strong is like seduction. Seduction, it's something that we don't see a lot, but it's a huge one because sometimes it's a bit tricky to do some ads on the seduction niche. But there are like at least 3 people in my mastermind who help others find a partner and even like help them keep the relationship strong once they found it. And that's a sub niche within a sub niche. So it's really, really narrow because the market is really competitive. And the truth is that there are endless problems to solve. And even things that don't seem to fit in any of these categories usually do. Take art, for example. It might seem unrelated to those, but it falls under wealth, whether for status or as an investment. And don't underestimate the depth of potential sub-niches. And so yeah, in the wealth category, for instance, you could go as specific as helping small business increase revenue by managing their social media. It's a random idea, but it shows how limitless these niches can be. And so the key is understanding where your niche fits. And so another thing that's really important is that don't ever think that one niche is better than another. Seriously, avoid that mindset because the best niche for you is the one that you enjoy and feel comfortable working in. You don't have to be widely passionate about it, but you should like it enough to stay motivated. For example, I choose psychologists and therapists as my focus because I love psychology and working with therapists. There are kind people who are making a positive impact, and that's how I picked my niche. And my mother was also a therapist, so it was really, really easy. So now let's dive into the importance of pain in choosing your niche. So the more painful the problem, the better it is for you to solve. And this is because people are driven by 2 core emotions, moving away from the pain and going into what we call the pleasure. Everybody is between like pain and pleasure. So it's moving kind of back and forth. And so I can give you an example. I joined a program run by a style coach who teaches people how to dress better. And so for many in that program, the struggle to dress confidently was like a big pain. So they were here. And it's a great example because it shows that even niches that don't seem obvious can work really well. And many people don't believe that this type of niche can be successful, but they do. And yet the guy, I think that is doing like 50K per month. So that's a real pain. Personally, I wasn't in a huge pain when I joined that program. I just wanted to elevate my style. So I was more in that side. But for example, in our niche, many of the therapists we work with are deeply motivated by their pain point. They have been trying to be successful, but they are really, really struggling. So their pain is really, really high. And so for them, becoming a successful therapist is like a life mission, something they have worked like toward for years. And if it's not working out, they are feeling real tangible pain. It's at least a 9 out of 10 on the pain scale. Now, contrast that with someone who is already making like, say, 100K a month and wants to reach like 300K a month. They might feel frustrated, but they are not desperate. They might be a little bit frustrated, but the pain is lower than the therapist that is struggling to make a living. I remember being at that point because I think that we hit plateau at 100K for like a year. And so I was a bit frustrated, but I was still happy with my life. I wasn't like my life would fall apart if I didn't hit my next goal. And so this is why niches related to core needs like seduction, weight loss, or career success are always independent. They target deep pain points. And because they resonate so strongly with people's emotion and practical needs, they are evergreen. And so keep this mental model in mind. The broad niche of health, wealth, and relationship, the idea of solving painful problems, and the pleasure-pain spectrum. And I'm pretty sure that this framework will help you find your niche and help you in your research. So now let's move to the 4th step. The 4th step is your offer. So remember, we are working with a 7-day time frame here. So your offer is simply what you are selling. And so with limited time, you can't overthink the packaging. When I started, I didn't worry about all the details. I just knew how to help my mom get more clients. I knew how to build her website on WordPress, and I could basically run Google Ads. I didn't get bogged down with questions like, should we sign a contract? How long should it last? What if it doesn't work out? The same goes if you are launching a coaching program. Should it be 3 months, 6 months, or a year? Honestly, it doesn't matter that much at first. You can be flexible and adjust as you go. The goal here is to focus on delivering value quickly without getting stuck on the small details. All you have to do is sell, and don't let the fear of it hold you back. If for some reason you can't deliver, you can always refund the client. For example, if you initially thought it will be a 6-month program, but realize that it's not feasible, it's not the end of the world. People often overthink these details. Should it be one-on-one or maybe not? Honestly, what matters is selling them what they truly want. And so when you are on a call with a potential client, we'll cover that later, you will likely get questions like, do you offer this specific service? Or can you help me with that? And your answer should be yes, as long, of course, it's within your capacity to deliver. And so the goal is to overcome the belief that selling is hard or that making money quickly is impossible. And so that brings us to the step number 5. It's one of my favorites. It's about the price. Setting the right price is one of the most common questions I get. And it's true, it's not always straightforward. And whether you are like a complete beginner or have some experience, the key here is to bring a price you are comfortable with. Because when you name your price, confidence is everything. If you're hesitant or second guessing yourself, the client will pick up on that hesitation. You need to be able to give the price without any hesitation. And if people sense uncertainty in your voice, the sale isn't going to work. So think about it. What's the price you are comfortable with? Is it like 1K or 2K, 3K, or even 5K? Would you rather sell one thing at 5K or 5 things at 1K? It all depends on your comfort level. And so when I started, I thought $500 was a big deal. So I started there. And so now I sell offers was tens of thousands of dollars. And now I can confidently set a price without hesitation. And so the key is to be comfortable with the price you set and flexible with payment plans if needed. But don't overdo it. Avoid like complex payment like 12 months installments, and those can turn into a hassle. At the end of the day, it doesn't help you to reach your goal of 5K cash in your bank account quickly. So if you make 5 sales with payments plans, you will need to make even more sales to reach your goal. It can still add up fast, but start with what feels manageable for you. And so if you do offer payments plans, keep it simple. My advice is to stick to 4 to 5 monthly payment max. Anything longer can turn into a headache with follow-ups. But at the beginning, a little flexibility is fine. Now let's talk about pricing in a way that make it easier to find that sweet spot. And so I use something I call the price equation, which has really helped me. So the idea is to give as much value as possible, and that value is made up of 4 main elements. And so the first element is the outcome. So what is the dream outcome that the person wants to achieve? And so let's keep it simple. So say someone struggling with severe obesity wants to lose 50 pounds. In this case, the dream outcome is losing 50 pounds. But then we have to consider a few other factors. So first, let's talk about the probability. Not just any probability, but the perceived probability. This is what the person believes their chances of success are. They might think, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds, but how likely do I feel I really am to accomplish this? This perception of probability is crucial because it directly impacts the perceived value of your offer. Next is the time. The time is really important. How long will it take to achieve this result? And so the more time it takes, the more patience and commitment they need, which can affect their willingness to start. Then there is the effort and the sacrifice. How hard will this be? Losing 50 pounds isn't something that can be achieved in a week. It's going to take significant lifestyle change, possibly hours in the gym, and a complete diet overhaul. While the dream outcome is clear, the perceived probability might be low if they have tried countless diets in the past that didn't work. Sure, others have done it, but for me it's going to be tough. And here is why that matters. When the perceived probability of success goes down, so does the perceived value of the program. This is why coaching programs for weight loss tend to cost less than something like liposuction. Even if both aim to achieve the same results, liposuction is seen as faster and nearly effortless. No gym sessions, no modes of dieting, just results in hours. And so this framework helps you understand why people are willing to pay more for certain solutions over others. And so the clearer the dream outcome, the higher the perceived probability of success, and the shorter the time and effort involved, the more valuable your offer is perceived in their eyes. Now, just one operation like liposuction isn't a small thing, but in terms of effort and sacrifice, it's actually pretty minimal for the person. Plus, the perceived likelihood of success is huge. We can take another example. It's similar of how people approach anxiety. You can choose meditation, which requires time and consistently, or you can just take a pill like Xanax or an antidepressant. And this is exactly why the big pharma market is worth billions, while the meditation market isn't nearly as large. Because the perceived probability of success is higher with a pill. The time needed is lower, the sacrifices are minimal, and the dream outcome is more immediate. All these factors add up to create a higher perceived value. So when you are thinking about your own offer, keep these four characteristics in mind: the dream outcome, the perceived probability, the time and sacrifice it takes to achieve. So this is the value. And this is what ultimately helps you determine the right price for what you are offering. And so these models can be a game changer for answering that big question: at what price do I sell what I do? So that's it for the point number 5. Now let's move on to the point number 6. And number 6 is your message. How to craft your message. Picture this. On one side, you have what we call your niche. On the other side, you have yourself. And so your message is like this wavelength. And to reach your audience, you need to be on the same frequency. So let's say that your niche is at this frequency, you need to be at this frequency, exactly the same. Because if the wavelength is not the same, like this one, you will not reach your niche. Think of it like turning into a radio station. When you are on the right frequency, you read everything clearly. It's the same with your message. The clearer and more aligned it is with your audience, the stronger the connection. So how to create a message that resonates? So here is the good news. If you have done your research right, so this step, your message will almost write itself. In its simplest form, a great message can boil down to: I help specific audience achieve specific outcome by unique approach. And so, for example, it's I help specific audience is the therapist achieve specific outcome. The specific outcome is grow the practice by unique approach or special mechanism or unique mechanism. And our unique mechanism is Google language to attract client. And so these formats show that you understand your niche, their goals, and how you can uniquely help them reach those goals. The simpler, the more direct your message, the more powerful it is. And so this exercise helps you see how well you have managed to synthesize and understand what you are offering. And remember, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Einstein said it. So the goal here is to simplify as much as possible, making the rest of your process easier. And so it's like a video game. You complete step 1, then step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you will succeed. And so you can consider each step as a level. I remember when I was playing Call of Duty when I was young, I was trained to beat all the level. And so, entrepreneurship is a bit like video games. The better you define each part, the easier the journey will be. So step 7, and the step 7 is the launch. So by this point, you have done all the groundwork. Now it's time to launch. If I had to sum up the launch in one word, it would be visibility. I will walk you through the details, but the key takeaway here is that everyone needs to know what you are doing. So share your message everywhere. Don't worry about having a huge following, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or even direct message. Get the word out. This is where the rule of 100 comes in. Every day, aim to do 100 outreach activities. It could be sending 100 messages, posting in groups, or sharing updates across platforms. Now, sending 100 messages might sound a lot, but in reality, it can take as little as 15 minutes. When I started, I found therapist contacts on Google My Business and sent 60 messages a day. And I remember that I reached 1,000 and Apple blocked my number, thinking I was a spam. I just called them, explain, and then block it. So even if minor issues come up, don't worry, they are manageable. And so focus on reaching out to people who know you first. Start with like contacts on Facebook, Instagram, or any former clients you have worked with. And so don't underestimate this network's incredibly powerful. You'd be surprised how many people who already know you will respond. And so, for example, some people I hadn't spoken to since primary school reach out with, "Oh, my mom is a therapist," or similar connection. And so people will know you already have a level of trust. So you need to use that. And so when you send out hundreds of messages, it's nearly impossible to not get an answer. And this is where you will start to see if your message is working or not. Are people engaging? If not, it may mean you need to adjust your message or redo your research. But the important part is to keep going every day and to let the whole world know what you are offering. And I know at first putting yourself out there can be intimidating. You might worry, what will people think of me now? For me, I remember posting my first message on Facebook and then I immediately closed my computer and I didn't look for 2 hours. It's normal to feel that way, but getting past it is essential. To inspire you a bit and to show you that when I started, I was truly starting from scratch. Today I'm generating 500K a month, and it all began with just a simple message. And so here is an example. So it's not me, it's my brother with Quentin. And so we sent out this first message. And so looking back at it, it was a pretty long message and not the easiest to read, but I got a lot of positive feedback, you see. I got like 82 likes. And so that first message may have been clunky, but it reached someone who later became one of my first clients and eventually one of my first students. And so yeah, if you want, feel free to pause here. You can read it through the message in detail, but the key takeaway is that you need to get into content and monk mode for these 7 days because they will fly by. And so aim to post at least one every day, one post per day on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever platform you are active on, because my first client came from a mix of channels. It was, I think that one came from Facebook, another one from LinkedIn, and one through SMS. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you did probably see similar message to the one I'm describing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just had to be consistent. So keep showing up every day with your message. The goal is visibility and reaching out to as many people as possible. And so when you do that, the answer will come. And so you can copy paste this kind of message. It's that simple. You can take this as an example. And so here is a tip. Another example, when we launched Ascension, which is like our mastermind. And so I did exactly the same myself. We were like doing like at least 300K per month, but I started like with that. When we launched Ascension, I follow exactly the same method. I crafted a message, share some exciting news about the launch, and include a personal touch. And so the first message may not have been perfectly polished, but it still worked. That launch generated over 100K, thanks to the trust we had built with previous clients and students who knew and trusted us. And so the key takeaways: don't worry about perfection. Use messaging that speak directly to your audience need and belief. And also share a testimonial when possible. And if you already have clients or followers, leverage that trust. These methods work because it's real, tested, and based on genuine connections. We used exactly what we had on hand, and it worked incredibly well. So now let's move on to step number 8. And the step number 8 is prospecting. And so once people start reaching out, the next question is, what messages should you send? And so this brings us to this prospecting part. I know prospecting isn't everyone's favorite, but don't worry, it's easier than you think, especially when you have done the groundwork with a launch that resonates. And so in this video, I will not share the exact prospecting message I've used that worked really well. I will do it in another video because this video will otherwise take like 3 hours. But the most important thing with prospecting is prospect like a fanatical. One of my favorite books is Fanatical Prospecting. And yeah, I remember when I was starting, I was using exactly the launch message I show you, and I was just like sending them to everybody. And so there are like multiple stuff in prospecting phase that you can do. There are like multiple messages that you can send, but I can just give you, for example, the icebreaker I was always using, and it's always the same. And it's just like saying the name of the person you are trying to contact and just with a question mark. I know it might seem a bit silly, but it worked really well. And then from here, I was just like waiting for an answer. I wasn't pitching anything. I was just trying to get in contact. And so when I was in contact with this person, I was just trying to get on a call, okay? And so, yeah, that's it for this quick phase. Remember, we are working with a 7-day window to make 5K with no ad spend. So prospecting is our only option. And yes, I know it can feel repetitive and sometimes tough. When I was prospecting through SMS, I had a range of response. And when I was prospecting, and it was just hard. That's just how it is. And so after prospecting comes the sale phase. So it's what I call the close. This is where we focus on actually closing the sales and making sure that money lands in the bank account. And so a quick side note, never say I'm going to try. Trying is a weak word. Instead, say I'm going to do it. And so this is where we focus on actually closing the sale and making sure that money lands in the bank account. And so a quick side note about that. I know that for a lot of people, like being on the call, trying to close somebody, it doesn't feel natural, and it wasn't natural for me either. But that's just the way it is. You have to do things that may seem a bit hard at the beginning. Another thing that is important is that sometimes people are a bit afraid of like refunds and admin stuff because like money is moving to your bank account. But don't be afraid of that. In this phase, our goal is to unlock those first few sales. It's like surfing. The first wave is the hardest, but once you catch it, the momentum builds and everything becomes easier. So to do this, focus on making big promises. And if needed, add a guarantee to it, any hesitation. And so let's dive into the selling process and make this happen. So one thing that you need to understand about sales is that it's a science of converting a stranger into a customer. So here is how it works. So every person starts in their current situation. That's what we call situation A. Then something happens to trigger a reaction, and that's what we call a stimulus. And the stimulus could be an ad, a social media post, or any marketing message. And in my case, it might be an ad. And in your case, it's going to be a message. And so the person in situation A sees your message and it sparks something in them. It resonates, it stirs a bit of agitation because it brings up something they want to change. Then there is the situation B. And so this is the desired situation they want to reach. This agitation between A and B creates movement. And so the sales process is about showing them that you are the bridge between where they are right now and where they want to be. So there are 3 steps here. First, we need to create agitation by highlighting the current situation. Next, we create separation, showing them the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And finally, we restore coherence, explaining that the best, fastest, and simplest way to go from A to B is through your support, product, or service. And so on the sales calls, these are the key areas to focus on. And I won't go into a full sales tutorial here. That's for another video where I will break it all down in details. But remember, this is the core structure. I remind my sales team and the people I coach of this all the time. Situation A, situation B. It's essential. So what does this mean in practice? It means helping the person understand where they are right now and where they want to go. If you can do this, you are already making great progress. Ask meaningful questions to go deeper. For example, if you are speaking with someone who's struggling with weight, you might ask, how do you feel about your children seeing you like this? Questions like dig into the emotional impact. And in B2C niches, it's not uncommon for people to get emotional on call. And that's okay. It's part of helping them face the reality of their current situation. And so sometimes the salesperson feels more concerned than the client. I remember speaking once with a psychologist who had just 1 month left of employment benefit, 3 kids support, and no clear plan. I was more stressed for him than he was. This is a reminder of the importance of our role in helping clients see where they truly stand. And so the question you need to ask your prospect should make them confront their current reality. For example, you have X amount left in your bank account. What will you do when that runs out? Or you may not see it now, but in 2 months, if nothing changes, you are going to hit a wall. It's like they are speeding toward a crash they haven't even noticed. And so early on, I used to hesitate to ask this kind of question, but when I started, how are you managing to get by? How does it feel to turn down opportunities because you can't afford it? Things open up. So don't be afraid to dig deeper into their pain, especially if you are working in B2C niche. In B2B, it's a bit different because it's often less emotional and more focused on the logical outcome, but the principle remains the same. Understanding this process puts you ahead of most. And so good salespeople are rare. Even when I'm the customer, I rarely come across great salespeople. If you can master this, you will be amazed of what it does for your success. And so moving to step 10. The step 10 is about the admin part. I know some people worry about the law, like, I don't have a company yet. How do I manage this? When I started, I didn't know either. I was just focused on getting paid. I would just give my bank account detail, handle things with my accountant later, and keep everything straightforward. If you are new, start simple. Focus on getting money into your bank account first. And so later, when you are hitting consistent income, you can start thinking about structure. Step 11, the last part, is building your program. So how do you actually create the content that delivers value? What you deliver will depend on what you are selling. It might not even be a program. When I first started, I sold websites. It was straightforward because I did everything for the client. I created a template, customized it, and delivered the final product. And the client didn't have to do much, which made it easier to deliver. But when it comes to a program, you are not just delivering something. You are guiding people through it. You need to coach, motivate, and make each step clear and simple so even someone unfamiliar with tech can follow. If you are creating a 12-week program, build it 1 week at a time. And so, for instance, when you sell it, let clients know it starts next Monday. You can create the first week content as they work through it. You will prepare the following week's material. And so sometimes you can even start the program a month after the initial sales, giving yourself extra time to develop it. And in my own experience, I once scheduled a launch for Monday, but realized I needed more time. And so I messaged everyone explaining that we did start in 2 weeks instead. And everyone was perfectly fine with it. And some clients even appreciate the extra time to mentally prepare. And so when it comes to an online program, remember that value isn't just in the content itself. I like to think that it's 30% community, 30% coaching call, and 30% training content. And so with that, we have reached the end. This was the challenge, how to make 5K in less than 7 days. We covered 11 detailed steps and I try to provide as much value as possible. Honestly, if you follow these steps, it can be that simple. And just remember, this method works. Hundreds of students have started this way. It's a powerful skill that took me from zero over 500k a month. And if it doesn't work for you on the first try, don't get discouraged. Start back at step 1, maybe revisit your mindset or tweak a few things within a few weeks or months later, and keep refining your messaging. Thanks for sticking with me through all 11 steps. Now go out here and make it happen.